Why an emergency fund matters more than investing if your paycheck is small. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I want to start with a number that honestly kind of makes me sick to my stomach. Almost 60% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt or borrowing from someone. 60%. That means more than half the people you know, your coworkers, your neighbors, maybe even you watching this right now, are one flat tire, one ER visit, one broken laptop away from a financial spiral they didn't see coming. And here's the thing that really gets me. Everybody online is talking about investing right now. Index funds, ETFs, dividend stocks, crypto, whatever the flavor of the month is. And look, I love investing. You guys know I talk about it constantly. But I mean, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have a safety net and someone tells you to just put it all in the market, that's not just bad advice, that's dangerous advice, because the market doesn't care about your rent due date. So today, I want to talk about why, if your paycheck is small, an emergency fund isn't just important, it's more important than investing. Not instead of investing forever, but first. And I'm going to break down exactly why, using my own story, some real numbers, and a step-by-step plan you can actually use this week.
My $400 mistake. Back when I was starting out, making not much more than minimum wage, I heard all this hype about the stock market. Everybody was talking about how compound interest was the eighth wonder of the world, how if you just started early, you'd retire a millionaire. So I did what a lot of young, excited, financially illiterate versions of ourselves do. I threw basically everything I had, about $400, into some random stock I saw mentioned online. No research, no safety net, just vibes and hope. 2 weeks later, my car's alternator died. $380 repair bill. And guess what I had? Nothing. Because it was all locked up in an investment I couldn't touch without panic selling at a loss. I had to put the repair on a credit card at almost 24% interest, and it took me nearly 5 months to pay it off. Meanwhile, the stock I bought? Down 12% that same month. That was the moment it clicked for me. I wasn't poor because I didn't invest. I was in trouble because I had zero cushion between me and life happening.
Myth versus reality. Here's what people think. Building wealth means getting your money into the market as fast as possible. Every dollar sitting in a savings account is a dollar losing value to inflation, so cash is basically wasted. But the reality is this. Money sitting in a fully funded emergency account isn't wasted. It's doing a job. Its job isn't growth. Its job is protection. It's the difference between an unexpected expense being an inconvenience and it being a crisis that sets you back years. Think about it this way. Money equals options. And an emergency fund is what buys you the option to say no. No to the credit card. No to the payday loan. No to borrowing from family and feeling that shame. Investing without a safety net isn't bold. It's fragile. You're building a beautiful house with no foundation. So today, I'm walking you through 5 things. 1, the real math on why emergencies without a cushion cost you way more than they should. 2, the big 3 expenses you need to stabilize before you save a single extra dollar for the market. 3, exactly how much your emergency fund should actually be, because it's not the same for everyone. 4, how to build it on a small paycheck without feeling like you're depriving yourself. And 5, when it's actually time to shift from saving to investing. The real math. Let's go back to the numbers for a second, because I think this is where it really hits home. Say your car breaks down and it's a $600 repair. If you have the cash, it's $600 gone. Annoying, but done. If you don't have the cash and you put it on a credit card at, let's say, 22% APR, and you can only afford to pay $50 a month, that $600 repair actually costs you close to $700 by the time you pay it off, and it takes you over a year to shake it. Now, stack 2 or 3 of those small emergencies in a single year, because life does that. It doesn't wait politely for one crisis at a time. And suddenly, you're not just behind,
you're drowning in revolving debt with an interest rate working against you every single month. That's the disease, not the emergency itself. Emergencies are just life. The disease is having no buffer, so every emergency becomes a debt sentence.
The big three, before micro-saving. Now, before we even talk emergency fund size, I need you to understand something I call the big three: housing, transportation, and food. These three categories eat up the majority of most people's income. For a lot of households, it's well over half their take-home pay. And here's the truth. No amount of skipping your daily coffee is going to fix a housing payment that's eating 45% of your paycheck, or a car payment on a vehicle you can't actually afford. I am frugal because I got the big three right first. I lived in a smaller place than I could technically afford according to a bank. I drove a paid-off used car for years instead of leasing something new. I meal prepped instead of eating out 4 times a week. Not because I enjoy suffering, because getting those three numbers under control freed up actual real money to build a cushion. Micro-saving matters eventually, but it's the last 5%, not the first 50. How big should your emergency fund actually be? This is where I want to push back on some generic advice you've probably heard. Just save 3 to 6 months of expenses, because that number isn't one size fits all. And honestly, for someone on a small paycheck, hearing 6 months of expenses can feel so far away, it's discouraging before you even start. So here's how I actually think about it, broken into stages. Stage 1, a starter fund of $500 to $1,000. This is your life happens buffer. Covers a flat tire, a vet bill, a broken phone screen. This is the number that stops the bleeding of small emergencies turning into credit card debt. Stage 2, 1 month of essential expenses. Just the big three, not your whole lifestyle. Stage 3, 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, which is your true stability fund, the number that protects you if you lose your job entirely. The mistake most people make is trying to jump straight to stage 3 and giving up because it feels impossible. Don't do that. Get to stage 1 first. That's the fund that actually changes your daily stress level the fastest. Building it on a small paycheck. Here's the part people always ask me about. Austin, that's easy for you to say, but what if I genuinely don't have extra money? I hear you, and I'm not going to pretend this is effortless, but automation is the anti-Godin tool here. Automation is the tool that beats temptation, because willpower runs out, but automated systems don't. Set up an automatic transfer of even $20 or $25 per paycheck into a separate savings account. Separate is key, because if it's sitting right next to your spending money, you will spend it. We all will. Treat it exactly like a bill you pay yourself first. On top of that, every time you get a small windfall, a tax refund, a birthday gift, overtime pay, throw a chunk of it straight into that fund before your brain even registers it as spendable money. $25 a paycheck, bi-weekly, is $650 a year. That's your stage 1 fund built in 12 months from something that barely dents a paycheck. It's not fast, but it's not nothing either. It's real progress, and progress compounds into peace of mind. When to shift toward investing. Now, and this is important, I am not telling you to never invest. Once you hit that stage 1 buffer, and ideally you're chipping away at stage 2, that's when it makes sense to start layering in retirement contributions or a low-cost index fund, especially if there's an employer match on the table, because that's free money you shouldn't leave sitting on the table. The order matters. Stabilize first, then grow. Not because growth doesn't matter, but because growth built on a shaky foundation gets wiped out the first time life throws a punch at you. The hamster wheel, this actually breaks. Here's the bigger insight I want to leave you with. The reason so many people feel stuck on the hamster wheel isn't that they're bad with money or lazy or undisciplined. It's that they're constantly recovering from the last emergency instead of preparing for the next one. An emergency fund isn't a boring, unsexy pile of cash doing nothing. It's the thing that finally lets you step off that wheel. Because when the next flat tire or ER visit happens, and it will happen, you're not scrambling. You're just fine. And that feeling, that exhale, is worth more than an extra % of return in the market.
So if you take away just 2 or 3 things from this video, let it be these. 1. Get your big 3 in order before you worry about micro-saving or investing, because that's where the real money is. 2. Build your emergency fund in stages, starting with that $500 to $1,000 buffer, because that's the number that actually stops small emergencies from becoming long-term debt. And 3. Investing isn't the enemy. Timing is. Get your foundation solid first, then build on top of it. I know it's tempting to want to skip straight to the exciting part, the charts, the returns, the get-rich dream. But real financial peace, the kind that actually lets you sleep at night, starts with the boring stuff. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of always been my whole philosophy. Boring is underrated. Boring is what frees you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. And if you want to go deeper on exactly how to automate your savings step by step, give this video a watch next. And with that, muchas gracias.